rarely come as a surprise to those in power. Almost without exception, the period leading up to a physical conflict is marked by economic warfare and strategic maneuvering. In public school, we aren't taught this side of history because public schools are run by the state, and the state has a vested interest in having a population that accepts official explanations without question. Right now, the groundwork is being laid for a war between the United States and a block of resistant nations. Among these nations are China, Russia, North Korea, Syria, and Iran. This lead-up is passed unnoticed by most of the population for two reasons. One, the mainstream media and the U.S. government intentionally obscure the geopolitical context of the events unfolding right now. And two, this stage in the conflict is comprised of an array of proxy wars, which will have secondary consequences that can only be anticipated if one has a firm grasp on the strategic importance of the regions in question. Unfortunately, we live in a time when much of the public is incapable of even finding countries like Iran or Syria on a map. The reason that nations wishing to instigate a war make use of proxy provocation rather than attacking directly is largely psychological. When a government wants to take its people to war, they need the public to be caught by surprise when the situation escalates. It is the shock of an unexpected attack that creates the climate needed for an outright war. And this is only possible when the lead-up to the crisis passes undetected. In these past months, we've seen an escalation in the tensions between the United States and North Korea, largely driven by U.S.-led sanctions and a series of military exercises conducted by the U.S. and South Korean militaries. These drills, which have been labeled Fold Eagle, simulated U.S. nuclear strikes and rehearsed coordinated attacks on the North. This in itself was an escalation, but the tensions were further heightened by the signing of a new mutual defense treaty between the United States and South Korea that significantly lowers the threshold required for the U.S. to militarily engage North Korea. North Korea poses no real threat to the U.S., but if Pyongyang can be lured into a fight, China will be directly affected. This is no trifling matter considering that China has a mutual defense agreement with North Korea and has enough nuclear weapons to make North America uninhabitable. This particular crisis with Korea is but one of many provocative measures that the U.S. has taken against China in recent years. Others include plans which were released in the NDAA of 2013 to target Chinese military tunnels with nuclear weapons, and a general policy of military encirclement in Southeast Asia. But why would the U.S. pick a fight with China? Why would anyone in their right mind provoke a nuclear power like this? The answer to that question is the same answer you'll find when you look into the real causes of the wars in the Middle East, and that's currency. The dollar is the world reserve currency, but more importantly, oil is only sold in U.S. dollars. This petrodollar arrangement has been enforced since the early 70s, and the United States has a track record of toppling any country that attempts to organize against it. The reason for this is simple. The only thing giving the dollar value is the artificial demand created by this monopoly. Once the petrodollar dies, the dollar dies. And when this happens, the world is going to be turned on its head overnight. The United States took down Iraq when it started selling its oil in euros, and it took down Libya when Gaddafi started organizing African countries to set up a gold-based currency called the dinar. These were militarily weak nations with no nuclear weapons. But now China is moving to attack the dollar, and this is a game changer. China, of course, is not announcing its attack as such. Its moves have been quiet and subtle, but the implications are clear. The most recent move came this past month when China and Australia announced that they were going to be moving off the dollar for their bilateral trade. In 2010, China and Russia made the same agreement, followed by China and Japan in 2011, and China and Iran have worked out an arrangement that allows them to bypass the dollar entirely by exchanging Chinese consumer goods for oil. To top it all off, the BRICS nations, which include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have just announced in March that they're going to launch a new global development bank which will compete with the IMF and the World Bank. Furthermore, China has been buying up massive quantities of gold and taking steps to internationalize the yuan, leading to speculation that they may be planning to transition to the gold standard. These moves have massive implications. China is chipping away at the dollar piece by piece, but the mainstream media isn't talking about it. The politicians aren't talking about it. And the reason is simple. If the public were to understand the petrodollar, they would understand that there is no war on terrorism. There's only a war for control of the world's financial system. All of this talk we're seeing right now of a red line supposedly crossing Syria is part of the same game. It's a proxy war to provoke Syria's closest ally, Iran.
Hi, and welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 301, and today's date is February 27, 2014, and the title of this episode is China Says U.S. Economy is Fake and Nothing Backs the Dollar. And we understand that China has been making deals all around the world. They've been making bilateral trades with Australia, with the UK, with Russia, with North Korea, Iran, Syria. They're down in Africa, setting up a clearinghouse for the yuan, and we see nations in Africa starting to shift their reserves from the US dollar into the yuan. So we see all of this happening, and just this week there was the G20 meeting, and certain things were said during this meeting, and we're going to get into that a little bit later in this report. So let's get
Chinese Army Battle Group consists of an armed force affiliated to a mechanized army contingent of Shenyang Military Area Command. The main equipment includes tanks, howitzers, anti-aircraft missiles, and gunship helicopters. The battle group is divided into 3 combat contingents, 1 artillery contingent, 1 commando unit, 1 air defense contingent, 1 armed aviation contingent, and logistics support. During a field maneuver, these contingents will jointly achieve the anti-terrorism task.
We have worked out contingency plans for complex weather conditions for conducting LANLO or low-altitude opening parachuting, helicopter attacks, and other task-oriented exercise.
The Russian Army Group consists of a large number of personnel and equipment. To deal with this, the Chinese Battle Group has adopted measures to strengthen command coordination and ground logistics between 2 armies. The Russian and Chinese battle groups will hold rehearsals and joint training before they carry out field maneuvers. Zheng Sui.
Good morning, America. How are you? Hi, this is Joseph with the Joseph and He Show, and I want to give you a quick note. It's 5:45 right now. I've been going since 02 this morning. I'm going to get the show up, okay? But in the meantime, I want you to see what's going on. I want you to see that China is breaking away. They're no longer buying our debt. And the Russians are in Ukraine, and there's a buildup there. We've signed an agreement saying that we would protect Ukraine if they gave up all their nuclear missiles. Well, they gave them all up, and guess what? Now, Russia's a steamroller, and they're challenging us. We don't want to fall into this trap. We really don't, because it's a trap. Let me tell you why it's a trap. At one point in time, I told folks here in the United States that we had everything we needed to protect ourselves, that our National Guard troops were fortified, because I was part of the National Guard for a long time. I sat on a 105 howitzer, you know, and those are big guns, and we swapped them out for MLRSs, which is like the Patriot missile, and we had smaller tanks, smaller field artillery units, and we had smaller tank divisions. Well, guess what? Somebody had the bright idea to take all them folks and make them MPs, take all their armament away from them. They don't need that armament. They just need to be MPs, riot control. Are you kidding me? Now, we're here at the precipice of World War III, and you've marked all of our troops down to military police. We're pre-World War II levels. And you take all of our armaments away, and then you take our ammo away, and now you're trying to take our guns away from us? What really are you guys planning up there in the White House? Okay, I'm starting to be concerned. So we need to be in prayer, we need to be aware, and we need to be prepared, okay, for coming events, all right? So watch these videos, look at the evidence for yourself as we go through the day. Y'all be blessed, and I'll be here with you, and we're praying together. You're not alone in the fight, all right? Y'all be blessed. Have a great day.
The United States is moving to drastically cut the size of its military to pre-World War II levels. The Pentagon said Monday it would retire Cold War-era aircraft, reduce the defense budget, and downsize active-duty Army forces next year from 520,000 soldiers to around 450,000. That would be the lowest level since 1940.
The Air Force today fired the 2-star general in charge of its nuclear missiles for undisclosed personal misbehavior and a, quote, loss of trust. This is the second firing of a senior commander of our nuclear forces this week. Major General Michael Carey, removed from command of the 20th Air Force. Carey was responsible for 3 wings of intercontinental ballistic missiles a total of 450 missiles at 3 bases across the country. A Pentagon official was asked whether Kerry's dismissal was alcohol-related. He didn't respond directly, but said Kerry is not an alcoholic. Our next guest says there is an epidemic of bad judgment and self-indulgence concerning military brass. Joining us is Fox News strategic analyst, Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters. Great to have you with us. Ralph, I mean, this is stunning. First, 3 stars, now 2 stars.
Yeah, and we've had 4 stars essentially relieved, more 2 stars court-martialed, reduced in rank, put out of the Army, and there is a real problem. Now, Lou, you know history, and there have always been problem generals, but not in this density, this number.
Happening now in downtown Miami, Black Hawk choppers soaring through the night sky, but this is only a drill. My team's Mike Marza has some pictures for us explaining what's going on. Mike?
Still, if you've seen one of these drills, it really is like a scene out of one of those action movies, choppers stalking the sky of downtown Miami and the like. Let me show you what's happening right in the shadow of the Adrian Arch Center. Police right now have blocked off Biscayne Boulevard. If you take a look, swing back over here. This may be involved in this training or not. Again, let me tell you what all of this is that we know of. It's a joint military training exercise involving local police, also military, as someone shot some video of some of these choppers, military-style choppers, flying over 395 in downtown. This was last night. Holy All right, so some blank rounds of gunfire pinging off the high-rises here in downtown.
Helicopters and the sound of gunfire created a lot of concern this afternoon in one Houston neighborhood.
She told me, don't come home because it sounds like we're in a war zone. Guns shooting and helicopters flying around over the house.
The Army, along with other agencies, had taken over the old Carnegie Vanguard High School. There were armed men in fatigues, plenty of weapons, and what many thought were real live rounds.
I felt like I was in a war zone. It just was nonstop. So I was terrified.
Turns out it was a multi-agency training drill. And an Army major who was out here wouldn't tell us exactly what kind of training they were doing. HPD was aware of what was going on, but the fire department apparently wasn't. In fact, an ambulance was even dispatched this way for a shots fired call until HPD told them. Army major who was out here wouldn't tell us exactly what kind of training.
Said military police with face shields, those baton shields and everything else going down Pump Road Station in Charlotte, North Carolina. I don't know why. They're training for something. Hey, what are you guys training for? For what? For a state mission, sir. I hear you. Can you tell me what it's for? Okay. Good. I just wondered, I never seen you guys out here. What you're training for?
Yeah, we out here. What we're doing is we're part of a big National Guard exercise.
Right. But what I get concerned about is when I know that they have FEMA camps building all over the country, which congressmen deny, and then they're caught on tape admitting that they're doing them. They got military training and in some places even doing like illegal checkpoints just to see that. And what I see, the federal government, Homeland Security buying over 2 billion rounds of ammo ordered just in the last year. And they're building up big-time military for something, and it's not just for natural disasters. I think personally, I think they know because of the derivative meltdown, they're getting ready for an economic collapse. And Marsh.
Welcome to Hannity. Tonight, the left has found a new way to limit your Second Amendment rights, those rights of law-abiding gun owners. Now, liberals are no longer simply setting their sights on taking away your guns. Now they're pushing through unprecedented restrictions on your ammunition. Here are the latest developments. In Connecticut, lawmakers are expected to vote tomorrow on a bill that requires the following. Magazines that carry more than 10 bullets must be registered. The law would also create a, quote, ammunition eligibility certificate, which means that background checks would be needed just to purchase ammo. A lot of good those guns would be without ammo. It would also, quote, implement a dangerous weapon offenders registry. But Connecticut is not the only state looking to limit ammunition purchases. Now, a similar proposal is being floated in California by a Democrat who wants to require that ammo be sold only to licensed dealers and would force sellers to notify police if a specific amount of bullets was sold under a certain number of days. Now, there seems to be a few reasons for this change in tactics. Now, while liberal lawmakers, they do not have the constitutional authority to take away your guns, there is no clear constitutional protection in their mind over ammunition. And as we've now seen in recent weeks, Democratic lawmakers in Washington, they don't have the votes necessary to pass an assault weapons ban. So it appears they are refocusing now on individual states and on your ammo.
Vice President Joe Biden is taking his fight for tougher gun control laws to the next level. Today, he unveiled 2 new steps the president plans to take to reduce gun violence. The first slows down the import of military surplus weapons. The second closes a loophole, allowing people to dodge a background check by registering a weapon to a trust or corporation. Both are executive actions which do not require approval from Congress.
Hey everybody, Matt from Resist the Tyranny. And I've got a message to the gun owners of Connecticut, the citizens of Connecticut. Stand strong. Do not comply with these registration laws. Myself and many others here in Ohio are behind you 100%. This is your chance. This is your chance to make an example of what it is to be an American and to show the government that they're not the boss of you, that you're the boss of them. Do not comply. Do not give up your guns. Do not register them. If they come to confiscate them, do not back down. Do not give in an inch. I don't care what you think of your government now. I don't care what you think of the police right now. The second somebody knocks on your door to make you give up your guns or to force you to register them, they're the redcoats. This is the Lexington and Concord moment of today's history, of today's society. What you do from here on out will set an example and will set the precedence for what the rest of the country is going to become. If you give in, if you comply, and you obey, then this will be the beginning of the end of everything the country was built on.